The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back to Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata here on AM 650. I'm Sterling Fox. Tony Juventu, Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia, my co-host. And our guest today is Strata lawyer Adrian Murray from White Rock. And on this program, we've been talking about pets and their people. And let's talk in this last segment about, let's assume that we're shopping for a strata. We're looking for the condo lifestyle, and we have pets. So, Tony, with that in mind, we're looking for a place that we can move into with our dog or our cat, or in some cases, we've had it in our family, both. So what kind of checklist should we develop to include in our search for the right place to live?
Very first thing to do is get a complete set of the registered bylaws in land titles. The very first thing to do. Read them, find out what's permitted and what's prohibited. Because before you make any decisions whatsoever, that's what you want to know, what's being done. Second thing, get a Form B information certificate, because if the strata has recently passed a bylaw about pets that they haven't yet registered in land titles, it will be disclosed on the Form B. So those are the very first two things to do when you're going to be dealing with a new building and you have pets and you're moving in, because that's where you're going to find out what exists for this strata corporation with respects to pets.
Okay, and Adrian, I'm assuming just based on that very sage information from Tony that you shouldn't rely on the realtor to provide you with all of the information. You actually should go, as Tony instructs, and read the blinking document yourself so you have a first-hand knowledge of what's written in the bylaw.
Absolutely. More and more cases that I see that are problem pets from owners are, I was told I could have a pet.
Right.
And the question then is obvious, did you read the bylaws? No, I didn't. Now, reading the bylaws is vital. And read the entire package of bylaws, because sometimes you'll see some bylaws at the front end of the bylaws that talk about what an owner can do. And then there's a whole section of the bylaws that appear pretty boring about meetings and things. But many strata corporations will add some more at the back rather than reordering everything. They'll add some more at the end of the
so all the amendments
package.
aren't necessarily up front.
Go through the entire package. But the other thing that I think is really important, and I've seen this again on numerous occasions, where people have said to me, well, the bylaws say no pets, but when I was there looking at the suite, I saw other people with dogs or cats.
Yep.
I just assumed that the bylaw wasn't being enforced. And that is the worst assumption that any buyer can make. One of the reasons, and it may be that the bylaw wasn't being enforced, but more significantly, under the Strata Property Act, when a new pet bylaw is passed, any pet that's in place at the time gets to stay.
Oh.
So you grandfather all of the pets in place when the bylaw was passed. So as I go through this building, I may well see dogs or cats that were grandfathered as a consequence of the passing of the new bylaw.
But because you saw, especially more than one, you just assumed it was a pet-friendly building.
Exactly. And those are the assumptions that people make that get themselves into difficulty, because frankly, there's no defense. If the bylaw says no pets and it's been passed and registered and I move in with my dog, there is no argument that I can make that will permit me to keep my dog. The Strata Corporation has all of the aces. They're going to order that dog to be removed, and I really haven't got any kind of an argument at all.
Okay, Tony, what other sorts of subjects of contention, such as the one Adrian's just described, come out of insufficient homework at the front end before moving into a building with a pet?
Well, I think essentially that's the crux of it. Just make sure that you are fully well aware, are you allowed to have pets? Do a little bit of homework also. Where can I walk my pets? Is there a park nearby?
Right.
Is there a facility? Is there a dog walking service nearby? Look at the minutes. Is there a history of chronic problems with the pets in the building? Are there other issues that come up about pets? Just get a sense of the building overall. Talk to some of the owners in the building who have pets. It's a great pet-friendly building. We look out for each other's pets, and
Sure, yeah.
you know, like you get a really good sense as a buyer when you go to the building. You've looked at the bylaws, you've got an information certificate, you've talked to some of the owners who have pets, you've searched out the neighborhood. I have a good, safe neighborhood for my pets. That makes a huge difference right out of the gate.
Okay.
The other thing about the bylaws is don't make broad assumptions about the bylaws. We have people doing that, and that's where you need to be a little careful. And this is what happens. It says you're allowed one cat or one dog,
Right.
but I have 2 dogs, and I claim that one of my dogs is really old and is probably not going to survive very long.
Right.
So I go to the strata council or the owner and say, can I have this additional pet, which I won't replace when the pet dies?
Right.
And council doesn't have the authority to grant an exemption. They don't have the ability to grant an exemption here. They have a duty to enforce this bylaw. So this is a decision you'll have to make when you're buying into a strata.
Do councils, Adrian, occasionally try to grant an exemption where, even though, as Tony has clearly stated, they're not allowed?
They try it. More often, we've got realtors asking councils to try it.
Oh.
And that's really where it's coming from. Or the owner who's trying to make the sale and can't make the sale unless this person's exempted or their second pet's exempted.
And the council can hear the petition, but they really have no choice. They can't grant an exception. They have to enforce the bylaw, right?
Exactly. If we want a change, we need to take it back to the owners and get a 3/4 vote. And that's what permits a change in the bylaws. It's not at the discretion of the Strata Council.
So if you really want to buy a suite in that building, then you better be prepared to sit on your heels for the whole process to go through approval or not at a general meeting by what, 2/3 of the owners, or 3/4 of the owners in the building.
That's right. So, and just I think to follow up what Tony's saying, read the bylaws, know what it permits, but also know what the restrictions are. If I plan to leave my pet on the balcony, if the bylaws say I can't, then I need to understand that. One of the best that I've seen was a bylaw that prohibited pets on the treadmill.
Oh.
If you're not prepared to take your pet out for a walk,
then don't use the one in the gymnasium.
then you may want to look at another building.
That's
pets in
really
pools,
funny.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that on YouTube all the time, but I guess people do it
I have drafted
in
bylaws.
common property exercise areas.
I've drafted bylaws that prohibit exercising your pets on the treadmill. So be aware of all of the bylaws and be prepared to comply with them. Don't think that they won't apply to you because it's the assumption. I've seen other people, or I think I've seen other people assume that the bylaws will be enforced against you as they are written.
Okay.
Well, and look at the bylaws too. Like, what's a reasonable number of caged mammals? I've often asked myself that question. Is it 2 gerbils? Is it 20 rats?
Ooh.
Like, think about really, and the strata might want to be more specific. 2 gerbils, right?
Right.
You might want to be more specific and limit, 4 or, 2 ferrets or, different types of animals so that there's a little bit of a limitation. And what about things like reptiles? Are people permitted to have
lizards and snakes in aquariums
and snakes,
turtles and all that stuff?
And what's a reasonable number of aquarium animals, and what's a reasonable size for a fish tank? Right. And, in a wood frame building with a flood, if a fish tank gets knocked over, it can do a lot of damage in a building. Right.
Yeah.
And so whether it's a fishbowl with a goldfish or a 5-gallon tank or a 50-gallon tank, some of these systems can be quite extravagant. And so, everybody else will end up paying the price for this. So for the strata to clearly define what the expectation is often more helpful for owners.
Adrian, what if I want to move into a building with some kind of bizarre, exotic pet that there's no language for it, any bylaws in that building? Do I get to move in and just take a shot with it because there's nothing that says I can't?
Bylaws are prohibitive when it comes to pets. They're not permissive. So if it doesn't prohibit, you're permitted.
Okay.
In
all
other
right.
words.
Oh, so me and the anaconda, we can go condo shopping this weekend.
And
Well, actually, sorry. No, let me restate that. No,
Okay, all right.
Must not keep any pets. It's prohibitive unless it's permitted. Sorry, I got it backwards.
Okay, so
you must not keep any pet other than
the
what's
ones that
permitted.
say you can't.
That's right.
Oh,
Sorry.
so the only thing you should assume is you're not allowed anything unless it's clearly stated to the contrary.
Exactly.
Ah.
So your pet pony, all of those, the anaconda,
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
But we have had a problem with the Strata a few years ago, and this is what happens. What happens when the snake does escape and it's in the building?
Oh, boy.
Right?
Because a snake would be permitted.
It would be permitted, and the snake did escape, and it took them almost 2 months to find the snake around a facility service down in the basement.
Oh, my.
Right? And so, think about that.
I don't think I want to. Adrian Murray, thank you so much for coming in. You don't want to think about that snake either, do you?
No.
Thanks for coming in. Hopefully you'll come back and join us again sometime in the future.
Thank you.
For Tony Giventu, I'm Sterling Fox, and we'll both go away and think about that and see you next time on Talk About Strata.